Mic check 1 2 1 2. Tap in with us. Unfortunately tonight, complications, right? I guess it was to happen sometimes. But shout out to Blaze campaign mix 8 to 9 o'clock, a little bit after. Well, obviously Mother's Day and situations. That's a good thing though. So him having to handle them duties. Shout out to him. It's your boy Mac Acre. We live on musicmedialounge.com. You already know we in the studio, we in the booth. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 954-561-305. What up? Once again, as I always say, the harsh reality is live life autonomously. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Shout out to BSB, Goddard Green, Baron P, Firebird. Shout out to the Social Club, to the ministry, the party, the autonomous way. Tonight is a Mother's Day special. And again, we had some music lined up and everything, but obviously with Blaze tonight, you know what I'm saying? We got caught up, so we can't give you the music side of the Mother's Day mix. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to make up for that. We're going to make up for it, though. It's what it is. Sometimes things happen, right? But we're going to get into this joint, though. We're going to get straight to it. You know what I mean? We got our guests, and we got our topics, a discussion dealing with the matriarch and the title of the bill. Hold on, it's coming through. It's coming through. Make sure we get our technical stuff out the way. Is the Divine Feminist movement a threat to the true matriarch? And shout out to, again, it's Mother's Day, and shout out to all the ladies out there, all the women out there, there's grandmas, great-grandmas, grandmas, moms. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So you won't think we being biased. That's why we do this. And I mean, shout out to my mama, by the way. Shout out to my mama. You heard me? Yeah. At the same time, shout out to my wife, who made me a father, and she's a mama. Shout out to my sister, all the my aunties and the ones close to me. You know what it is. You know what I'm saying? And all the ones that I'm friends with that have children, you know what it is as well. So it's nothing but love. Well, some of the things dealing with, if your shoe fits, you wear it, and it fits you, don't get offended by what you see, because I'm just going to present the information. And actually, I'm using women to present the information because I felt that'd be the best way to go about it. Like our guest tonight, I know she's going to jump on me if I say something wrong. You know what I'm talking about? We're going to play a couple clips, and in a few minutes, we're going to pull up our guests. We're going to get straight into the bill. So tap in, got a green, pull up on us, and if you know what I mean, share it, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Share it to the Facebook, to your Twitter, you know what I mean, to your IG, to your TikTok, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, tap in with us.
This could take quite a bit of time.
Pardon my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces. How the fuck you butt me and broke but a pair of races? My lineage free people of color with a left make each nigga. This right here maroon, now it ain't burgundy. If you plotting murder, I'm certain that you'll need surgery hurt from when the burner squeezed. Protecting tribe business, only consulting with governments tried to tribe with it. Please don't confuse us with those considered native. Semi-autonomy never was in our nature. Just address me as Estelusti. Wild Indian status and Cherokees riding Bruchis. In my war bonnet, if you want it, bring it to your region. And black forces the same color the European. Pardon my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. You never find a Aborigines. Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines, but you don't like to be called an Aborigine.
That's right. Our folk don't like to be called Aborigines for some reason. In fact, next week, Sunday, before we get into this joint, I'm going to plug it in now. We're going to do a panel discussion on some of the things we're going to talk about, what people want to hear about. It's a popular thing, so we're going to talk about it a little bit. America's the old world, new world, and all them things. I got some stuff to show. And we got some, I'm inviting folk to come to the show to tap in and let people know what they bring your sources though. If you want to come on a panel, and I invite you, know who you is. Bring your sources. Let your opinions, your sources. You know what I'm talking about? We're gonna play a couple clips though, and like I said, 9:30, a little bit after. We run a little late, so we're gonna go a little late, and we're gonna get a chance for everybody to tap in. So like I said, like, share, subscribe. You know what I mean? Tell a friend, bring a friend type vibe. Especially if you know any woman out there that want to tap into this information right here that we're going to talk about: matriarch, matrilineal, divine feminism, all those things. Some of the stuff I couldn't even get into tonight because actually it's controversial, and I don't really want to take part in anything on a masculine or feminine side of dogmatic things. You know what I'm talking about? But I want to straighten out certain parts that I feel need to be straightened out because I ain't heard nobody really go about it from that way. And I even got some white people involved that's going. I took clips for them, so you won't think I'm being biased, right? You know what I'm saying? Since y'all go to school and get the information from them anyways. So whenever God ready, we're gonna tap in. Ooh wee, let's go.
So if you do the math, all you have to do is go into each one of the colonies and see when slavery was introduced to that colony, subtract it from the Emancipation Proclamation, and you will find, surprisingly, that that we were not slaves 400 years, 250 years. In some states, it was less than 65 years. And so I was talking to a Gentile today, an Anglo-Saxon, and he started talking about his school system. I said, listen, man, the books that our children read are sanctioned by Texas, one of the most racist states in the union. They are deleting and adding information all the time. They have all power to distort history.
Yeah.
I'm telling y'all what's real. Are we making this up? So
Is we really making this up though? Because we doing Q&As. Matter of fact, we got another Q&A coming up right before Memorial Day weekend. You know what I'm talking about? That Tuesday. Don't throw me off. I got a lot of thoughts in my mind. But just look for it. It's coming up. You know what I mean? And after that, we got one coming right before what they call Juneteenth. Q&As lined up for Arthur Lee Cummings, the Negro Question Series. We got a couple other guests we're going to be doing Q&As with too. And it won't be done on Sundays. But this is just our first series of doing Q&As with authors of books and people that we feel we want to have information about the Q&As. But we just get, check out all these shorts. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man's Monte with the news, and make sure you check that out 3 days out the week when it pops up. Tap into it. But obviously we playing our shorts that we got real quick before we get into the build, because obviously, we're getting some things aligned in the background. I'm gonna keep it 100. It's raw. We organic with it, but we're gonna play this clip real quick. Let's go. See, that's what happens. Now you got the source up. We ain't gonna give them that yet. We ain't gonna go there yet, God. You got the now. We gonna go. Hey, it's a podcast. We live. It is what it is. No, but when you had it right though. Actually, it happens like that. Like we say, we loading our board up, so we buying time. So that's what it is. I kept it real before it happened. So you saw how it happened, right? Because again, we running late. Smoothie told me not to blame it on Earth. But shout out to Smoothie either way.
In the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 5 and 6, it states,
I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept.
So what do these verses mean? Comely is used here to mean pleasant to look at, attractive, but denotes disagreement, as if to say, if one is to be black, it is contradictory that they are aesthetically appealing. Kedar referred to the darker-skinned people like the Ishmaelites, the Egyptians, Palestinians, and others. The curtains of Solomon likening here is equivocal, since they were very likely purple, the color of Rudolf Virchow in the Song of
You shorts, man. We got a lot of stuff back there. Shout out to the Kumse. I always got to give a shout out to our people that's putting in our network out information, and we standing on it. You know what I'm saying? Any information actually outside of that, we're gonna be do. You know, we do it already. We're known for it actually on Clubhouse, on Facebook. We trying to get on Twitter, but everybody's schedules. I keep it real from us, getting on Twitter and doing what they call the spaces. But we coming though. It's a campaign year. But right now, as we and a lot of things we got popping in our area and other people's areas that's tied to what we got going on. So those things has kind of got us busy. But at the same time, that's good busy. I ain't mad about that. And once again, for anybody that might have just came on, happy Mother's Day. You know what I'm saying? To all the ladies out there, women out there, I like to say. Because I have an acronym for ladies. I'll go into that at the end. Let's go. Oh, that's what's happening.
Are convinced that there exists a conspiracy to discredit them, an argument which was strengthened by recent discovery that the FBI solicited the assistance of an unnamed Black to help discredit the late civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr.
Around the nation, we're in Washington today, partly to complain about the treatment Black elected officials receive from the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. Eyewitness News correspondent Bruce Johnson reports.
Allegations aimed at Black elected officials was the major concern of many Blacks who gathered in Washington this week for the Democratic National Committee meetings.
I was removed as Secretary of State just at the time that I was going to be named national president of all the secretaries of state.
Black leaders are convinced that there are
quick clips. I think we got our guest back there, man. It's 9:30. I'm gonna be on time. We're gonna pull up our guest real quick. I wanna introduce our guest, and then we go into the we're gonna go into the history and everything like that, and then we're gonna go forward. Miss Angela. It's finally nice to see you, Miss Angela, by the way. How you doing today? Or tonight, I should say.
Hello, Mac. Hello, our Autonomous Party. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I've been talking to you all this time. I never got to see you in all these, I say a year now of us talking almost over every day in conversation about topics of our people in history, politics, etc. And out of our conversations, I tried to get you on here before. It's not my first time, but obviously, through all the time you hear what is now. So I thank you once again, and thank you for supporting the party and everything. From the time that I've met you, you know what I'm saying? You've seen us go through a lot, so you've been a witness. You know what I mean? Well, happy Mother's Day to you too, by the way. Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the introductions.
Oh, you're welcome. Is there anything you want to say about where you're from and a little bit about your background? Well, we start playing clips and get into things. You know what I'm saying?
I'm from Baltimore. There's a lot of my family members on the thread. I see my daughter and my nieces, and I think possibly my son.
Shout out to your family. Real talk. Shout out to the.
Thank you.
Is it Williams? They would be Williams, correct? They would be Williams. The Williams family.
Well, correct? Williams and the Tate family.
Shout out to the Tates too.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Tates too. I ain't trying to exclude your lines. No, you know how we do. I can't exclude no lines because people try to tell lies about lines. That kind of line. No, but for real though, particularly before we actually go into the ancient video clips and everything like that, what I want to say to you, being that this is a matriarchal bill and it's a Mother's Day, obviously you being a mother yourself, but as being labeled a Black woman, you see keyword label, they call Black in this country, United States of America. Your position and how I've met you, I gotta be real before we get into other stuff. You know what I mean? Can you give people a little background, like how you got into just the whole politics of things? Because that's how me and you kind of like started to go back and forth about things and, putting the dots together on what me and you be talking about. So I want people to get a little bit of that from you organically as well. Because you mentioned like the hashtag movement, the freedmen groups. You've been around, like people don't know. So I want people to understand that this woman that I'm sitting here conversating with, I don't just bring any woman on the platform like just out the blue. Like you really have been in the thick of things. You know what I'm saying? I got to put it like that. You've been in the thick of things, socially knowing who's doing what. People might not know it, but I'm gonna tell people. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead, though.
Well, yes, I was initially part of the hashtag organization. I actually formed a chapter here in Baltimore. There was a slight disagreement with the hashtag organization. And the reason for the disagreement was that coming from a political perspective, depending on where you're from, politics is organized and it works slightly different. And that was one of the issues that I had with the hashtag organization. They were trying to put people as a collective in terms of the injuries that certain populations sustained. And that's where I had a disagreement. In addition to that, there was some things that was going on within that organization that did not make me feel comfortable. And from my perspective, when it comes down to reparations, reparation by its mere definition is an act. Restitution is something that's quite specific in regards to people's lineages, their bloodlines, what occurred to their family during emancipation, prior to emancipation, so on and so forth. So from my perspective, even when it came down to other organizations that I was actively participating in, namely the Freedmen, it was just a difference of opinion. So therefore, I had to move on from those organizations, and here I am with the Autonomous Party. I feel more comfortable with this group. Thank you.
I mean, if you don't mind people knowing, because like a reference, I guess people need to hear it. What made you comfortable with not just obviously what we do on Sunday with the podcast and the mix show, but obviously what we do as a community and how we've been. Some people might not see that side of it. You have, like people, a lot of people on YouTube only see what they see on YouTube. They don't know the day-to-day stuff. You know what I mean? Like you see it, so you've been definitely witness to it over the last couple years. You know what I mean? Of how we as a party are in the community and dealing with people who could pull up on us, and you've seen people pull up on us.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So, we're not like we hiding or anything.
Well, from my perspective, when it comes down to the Autonomous Party, you guys have always came at it from a historical perspective, and that's something that I really appreciate. I'm a critical thinker, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, if I question you, I don't get pushback. I get information that is informative, that is educational, and as far as I'm concerned, it's valued and it's needed at this particular time and junction in our history in this country.
And I agree with you. And I think that people need to pay more attention to the historical record rather than the dogmatic or religious, even though tonight, what I'm about to actually play, because I got to go ancient before we get to present day. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to, go through some things, and I'm going to ask you questions. I want you to give me your feedback for it. But because I wanted to have a woman not only that can tap into the political parts of present day and the things that you have done research on that you want to let people know about, but also just give me your feedback about some of these positions that I'm telling y'all in the field that I've come across dealing with women in different groups, etc. You know what I'm saying? Because something like you said, critical thinking, and I know you're going to keep it real with me. And that's why I don't mind you telling me, Mac, I don't agree with that. It is not a disrespectful thing. I just want to show some things and you give me feedback from a woman's perspective. Shout out to Miss Annette, Miss Sherry, Miss Bria. You know what I'm talking about? All the ladies of the party. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, again, you were supposed to be on our last panel discussion. But again, you had to work and certain things. So, but you're here with us now. I'm making up for it. And it's exclusive because you're a special guest by yourself. So, we're gonna play a clip from this ancient joint real quick, and I would like I'm gonna play each one. And what I'm doing right now, just so I give everybody an introduction, is because of the El Negro series, which obviously is tied to a certain religious group of people. Some people would say, or historical group of people. Some people might say. Um, the word, Jewish, Jew, Yahudi, Israelite, all them things, their religion, their culture, the anciently, but we're dealing with the matriarch. I'm being very specific about this. So I want you to tell me your critical as I lay this out from going back then, because that means that this would be correlated to not just the men of that culture, but also the women of that culture, if we was to kind of walk it up. So we're going to play this clip real quick. And I want y'all to tell me what you think. We're going to go ahead. Let's go.
Welcome to our video about Asherah, the god's wife. Asherah is identified as the consort of Sumerian god Anu and Ugaritic El, the oldest deities of their respective pantheons. The role gave her a similarly high rank in the Canaanite religion. Canaanites associated Asherah with sacred trees, it also found in the Israelite tradition. Israel's association of Asherah with sacred trees is repeated over 30 times in the Bible, like the 1 Kings 14 verse 23, 2 Kings 17 verse 10 and Isaiah 17 verse 8. The King James translation of the Bible uses groves instead of Asherah's name. Many of these lines are stereotypically used by the biblical writer to describe of idolatrous worship. Asherah is the goddess of fertility who appeared in several ancient sources. Her name sometimes translated Atharat in the context of her cult and Semitic. Her other titles are Queen of Heaven, Supreme Goddess, Lady of Devine, Mother of Angels. She is also the creator of the primordial gods, thus being the progenitor of deities the human has come to know and worship in mythology and culture. She is also presumably the Aeon known as Barbelo, who is often regarded as the mother of Jesus Christ and is part of the Holy Trinity in Gnosticism. Asherah, whom the Book of Kings suggests was worshipped alongside with Yahweh in his temple in Israel.
Okay, so it's a minute joint. I'm gonna play, and all this is tied to Asherah. My first 3 clips dealing with ancient history, because I want to clear something out. I want to get a point across. Then with the matriarch of mythology, or they would call creed or religion, and also culture, because as it mentioned in there, it said the Canaanites. And a couple other clips going to show some other cultures on that side. You know what I mean? By the way, and because people are tied to that religious ideal narrative, within that ancient time frame, I think a lot of people get the narrative that these people, because of a religious text, that, and I'm gonna show what these white folk are saying about this now. Religious text that is patriarchal. You know what I'm saying? The ideal that within the biblical text that it's just strictly patriarchal, and that goes for our own black men in that chauvinistic way that would take the religious text, dealing with the culture of people as if that's the only thing they did. Asherah was worshipped side by side with who people today would call the masculine form of God. Did you get that out of that clip, or is it just me?
I did get that out that clip that you just showed. That the phenomenon was worshipped as well as the masculine. So yes,
not just one.
Yeah,
right.
But
not just one.
Out this particular one, I did get it. The phenomenon was still unworshipped.
Okay, so we're gonna play the next joint real quick. I did this in order because that was the short one. I'm gonna play this one. Still dealing with Asherah, and this is these people debating about it. So we're just gonna go into the look how these people go. This is, how they say when white people get into arguments, you're supposed to sit back and just listen. Okay, go ahead, play that clip.
Textual data that depicts the God of the Hebrew Bible as having a wife.
So that's not exactly accurate. We have no textual data from the Bible that depicts that, but we have multiple textual attestations to Asherah as the consort, the partner, the wife of Adonai, who is the God of the Bible.
What actually happened was in Israel's pre-exilic times, some Israelites disagreed with biblical theology and thought God had a consort named Asherah.
So this is inaccurate and anachronistic. There was no such thing as biblical theology until there was such a thing as a Bible, which would be about 1,000 years after Israel's pre-exilic period ended. So the widespread worship of Asherah was not disagreeing with...
Pause. Did you just hear how he said 1,000 years after? He said exilic. He said it differently. Can you back it up? He said exhilarate. Did he say exhilarate? Everybody heard that clearly? I don't know if y'all heard that. Maybe it was just me. But he said 1,000 years out after the exile, right? Did anybody hear that? Make sure in the chat. If you heard it, let me know. Go ahead, play it back real quick.
Years after Israel's pre-exilic period ended. So the widespread worship of Asherah was not disagreeing with biblical theology, and there are no data that indicate it was disagreeing with anything at all until the 7th century BCE, when Asherah and Asherah's worship first shows up in the literature and is condemned. Let's take a look at what the scholarly consensus regarding that condemnation is. So this is from Tilda Binger's 1997 book on Asherah. I have shown above that it is apparently only the Deuteronomists that know of a goddess by the name of Asherah, and that they, as often as not, connect the cult of this goddess to the cult of Adonai. This is from Steve Wiggins' later book on Asherah. The goddess Asherah is thus not mentioned in the prophetic books. The cultic object referred to 4 times in the masculine plural form is evident in later editions. It appears, therefore, that the Asherahs were not of particular concern to the prophets. Here is Judith Hadley's book on Asherah. Almost all the references to Asherah belong to the Deuteronomistic literature or later. The only possible exceptions are the passages in Isaiah and Micah and Exodus 34:13. Isaiah 17:8 is generally considered a gloss, while Isaiah 27:9 and Micah 5:13 are disputed. I would argue that we cannot confidently identify any references to Asherah whatsoever, much less negative references to Asherah in any literature that predates the Deuteronomistic literature. But let's look at what Hadley has to say in another article. As seen above, the passages in the Hebrew Bible which mention Asherah can be attributed to the hand of the Deuteronomistic historian or later, and are largely condemnatory. It may be, then, that religious reformers at the time of Josiah and later wanted to eradicate the worship of Asherah, whether it was the wooden cultic symbol or the goddess herself. But during the centuries before this, Asherah had appeared paired with Adonai in most positive ways. Furthermore, the early 8th century BCE prophets do not condemn Asherah worship. The worship of Asherah was evidently totally acceptable before the Deuteronomistic reform movement gained momentum in the 7th century BCE.
Stop right there. Stop, pause. So, as you just heard that, I want to make sure. Now, I want to back up, though. You can put it back up. You heard what he said again in that part, all right? That up until a certain period, and it's not saying God's law, but a man, an individual in this time period that's ruling is choosing to go against cultures of his own people ruling over them to put them in the position of a mono-masculine standpoint.
That's exactly.
Is that what I heard, right? Or did you disagree with that part?
I don't disagree with you. That's exactly what I heard. That the woman was put in the back. She was,
at that period.
She was told, basically, she was moved from the side-by-side couple to the back.
Correct. Now, and that wasn't done by the original culture of their people. That was done later in the history of rulers of their people that obviously decided to have priesthoods that were underneath their rulership that decided to say, no longer are we accepting this side-by-side thing. Am I right from what you heard so far?
That's exactly what I heard.
Okay. I want to make sure. Just I ain't being biased. Because if I'm going to go anciently with this whole, because for some reason I think today that because of how religion has been given us to us today, I want you to tell me you disagree, that women obviously feel they're not in the book, right? And they want to know why they're not in the book. Why ain't no feminine representation for humanity is not in this religious text they call Abrahamic religion, right? So, but as this is breaking down, it's showing you when it happened and how it happened. Are you gathering that yourself?
Yes, I am. I am gathering that. So as he stated, it was during the Deuteronomy phase.
Yes.
Where the woman was put in the background.
Yes, so, that's what it's saying. And there's a king that's in the Bible by the name of Yahshua. And I ain't talking about the person they call Jesus later on, because that would be, as you heard them say, it said the other guy, the white guy said pre-exilic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So pre-exilic means that prior to exile and prior to a time frame, and when you go to that king's list, you'll see that certain kings were not going against the fact that their people were following the duality of worshiping a feminine and a masculine divine principle. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Rulership. Okay, make sure we on the same page. We can play a little bit more. We're gonna go on to the next one. I just wanted to get this ancient part. And again, if any woman that's joined us tonight is in the chat, you could definitely put your thoughts in the chat. You know what I'm saying? And tap in and let us know what you think. If you think that you agree to disagree with anything that's being said here tonight. You know what I mean? If you live with us, you know what I mean? Happy Mother's Day to y'all as well. Or even if you're just representing the feminine aspect and you want to agree to disagree, put it in the chat. Tap in, God. Go ahead.
This fact is not immediately apparent.
Biblical authors and editors explicitly reject this as an act of rebellion and heresy. They never depict the God of the Hebrew Bible as having a wife.
So it is accurate that the Bible nowhere identifies Asherah as Adonai's wife. That's because it has been edited. And these three texts that were provided are all from the Deuteronomistic writers or after, and they have also been edited. The one on the bottom, 1 Kings 18, where it refers to Elijah calling for the prophets of Baal and Asherah to be gathered together for this great contest. The reference to the prophets of Asherah is a later editorial addition because they just vanish from the narrative. They're called to the contest and they play absolutely no role whatsoever in the contest. It's only the priests of Baal who are there. And so they were obviously later added to the narrative in order to lump in the prophets of Asherah with this earlier condemnation of the prophets of Baal.
That was a different theology from Israel's pre-exilic times.
The only theology that we can reconstruct from before the reign of Josiah and the rise of the Deuteronomistic literature in the 7th century BCE has absolutely nothing negative to say about Asherah at all.
Until we discovered that ancient Israelites actually worshipped a woman alongside Yahweh.
Okay, this is not a recent discovery. The biblical authors admitted this was going on in pre-exilic times, so we've known about this for millennia.
But there are two big things that have changed within the last century or so that actually make this a pretty big deal. One is that scholars can now more confidently situate a lot of these literary layers within their appropriate historical and rhetorical and literary context. And doing so indicates that nobody condemned the worship of Asherah until the Deuteronomistic literature in the 7th century BCE, likely under the reign of Josiah. Prior to that, we have no indication anyone had a problem with it. The other thing that has changed is that in the last 75 years or so, we've discovered some inscriptions that link Adonai and Asherah, and those inscriptions predate the rise of the condemnation of that worship. And so scholars now have been able to more accurately reconstruct a period in Israel's history where the worship of Asherah was probably widespread and normative, not unilateral. Obviously, there were people who didn't worship Asherah, but there is no indication that anyone had any problem at all with the worship of Asherah until the Deuteronomistic literature in the 7th century BCE, probably under the reign of Josiah, and that condemnation was probably part of a campaign of cultic centralization. And so Asherah was vilified and literally demonized.
Now, you heard that? No, I want to make sure we're on the same page as, you know, it's going through this part before we go forward. Because I think these two guys going back and forth who don't look like us, what I've researched though, that's why I use this clip because I ain't going for, I'm not biased. And you know, it already came out the bag that the people of the book are dark-skinned people, so they talking about us as far as dark-skinned people are concerned, by the way. But either way, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, what you think about that part though?
Well, I got out of it the condemnation of Baal, which makes you wonder who's Baal. You know, that's something that I got out of it. So yeah,
there's an issue going on because technically
it's a duality.
It's like a cultural thing popping, right? Because within this historical context, you got a ruler called, they say Yahweh. I'm just going off their words. I'm not going I'm going to go off what you heard them say. There's a Yahweh and there's a Baal, right? And they're saying that Baal and Yahweh are going at each other, and the people that are worshiping Yahweh are saying, you know what, y'all, some of our folk are too caught up with Baal and Asherah being in together and side by side. So we got to exclude both of them in order for us to get our point across. Is what I'm gathering. I mean,
That's
maybe
what I'm gathering as well.
okay. I want to make sure I ain't, you know. I mean, because Asherah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got some shit you can pull up for the it's a cartoon. I think you see. I think you ahead of me. See, gotta agree, be ahead of me sometime. Be moving me. I be having to catch up. Like, damn, dog, you know, like that's how you gonna do? So She-Ra, you know what I'm saying? Like the Thundercats. I mean, you had children watching Thundercats growing up.
Yes,
As a
yes, I
mama.
did. Yes, I did.
In the era that I would. I mean, I said Thundercats. See, I'm thinking about that whole era. See, yeah, Thundercats, He-Man, G.I. Joe. I'm just thinking about that time frame when I was a jit, so I watched all them shits. You know what I'm saying? But either way, yes, it was He-Man. But the counterpart was She-Ra. Yeah, I mean, it just happened to be a thing. I'm gonna move, but I got one more joint for the ancient part. I told you I was gonna touch on it because I really want to get to more present day stuff. But I have to acknowledge on Mother's Day, you know what I'm saying, within the culture of ancient history, that made it into the religious text that there's even the white folk are saying that they edited something at a certain time period to take the duality of what they were trying to rule. I don't give a damn if they're talking about hey, black folk might not want to admit this. It might be hard to swallow that there was a chauvinistic agenda to represent this masculine part rather than the duality part from a certain group of people within the culture. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean that everybody within that culture agreed or followed either. You know what I'm saying?
No.
What you think about that before we pull up the next joint?
I agree with you. Not everyone agreed. And especially from my perspective, I don't think the women would have agreed. Given a point, at one point they were together. And then all of a sudden, women were told, you have to take a back seat now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see. Yeah.
It's there. I mean, it's in the text. Since people like to
there.
talk about the text, these people are discussing religious text tied to a historical group of people. Now, you know what I mean? The whole worshiping part in present day time, I don't think we should be uplifting each other in duality, like how we get married and we have family. So you're supposed to honor your husband, and the husband's supposed to honor the wife,
yes.
and who are the parents of the children.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Lead by example.
Duality.
And you lead by example. Those parents lead by example. Those children see it and they will repeat what they've been taught in the home. And if they see parents being equal in terms of the way they do things, the way they co-parent, then yeah.
Duality.
Duality. Right? That's
right.
Correct.
So that means the daughter and the son are both going to be treated in the duality, being that it's a duality raising both of them, no matter what gender it is, right?
That's
of your
correct.
child.
That's correct.
Right. So I feel like there's a divine feminine, just like there's a divine masculine, and both my children I would want to become in their most divine situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Not just one. And I know it's Mother's Day. So again, though, some of this divine feminism I've been watching all the clips over the last like 30 days, right? For a reason. We had a debate that was supposed to take place that didn't happen. I ain't gonna go into that, you know what I'm saying? But still, you know, it was dealing with the masculine, feminine thing, you know what I'm saying? Gender roles and, you know, who's ruled first. And, you know, but I just want to go to something in text because I think that also what's taken out of sense is the fact that the matriarch, which is going to be representing that divine position of a ruler of a woman who's side by side with the ruler of a man, you know what I'm saying? In this worshiping perspective of thinking, you know what I'm saying? I don't subscribe to worshiping anything outside of myself. By the way, I honor and love, you know what I mean? The opposite of my gender, you know what I mean? But we're both humans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll keep that in context. We're gonna play this next joint though, and we're gonna get to the present parts of the conversation. I just want to make sure I give a shout out to this Asherah. And that's I could do more on this now. We don't got time. We ran late anyway, so I'm gonna get to the best I can. But there's some other things I want to touch on tonight within this podcast conversation. So tap in. You notice how he said though, since it's mythology, or what they were called mythology of cultures of a divine feminine principle that the Egyptians would have called, what the Israelites would have called Asherah, the Egyptians would have said Hathor. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
The Sumerians had a name for her. The Canaanites have a variation for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in all of those cultures over there, not just Israelites, of dark-skinned folk on that side now, and their principles, and it's the feminine aspect is there.
Yes, all of them worship the divine feminine. Yes.
It's showing.
Yes,
right
it
now.
is showing. Even in when he spoke of their various artifacts, he was speaking of the divine feminine. So yeah.
Now, tell the truth and shame the devil type of thing I'm on. So, I can't front on what I read and what I've seen. That's why even the tree part and the pole part, because the astral pole, and if you look at a lot of let's say Aboriginal cultures, being that most of the cultures I'm finding are matrilineal.
Yes. All of them are. Even when it comes down to certain other cultures, it's the divine feminine. In terms of lineage, proven lineage, is through the feminine, not necessarily the masculine. Yes.
Now, before we move forward with this clip, and you said that, now it's a certain group of people tied to this religious text that is following what you heard all these white men just say, and you know what I mean, in them clips about this time period, archaeology and all that stuff. And when the thing switched up, right? And now we can follow forward, as I'm gonna use the term you said, pre-exilic, after the exile of that history of those folk and their culture. And this is after the fact that their king is no longer in position to, and his family is no longer, shout out to Nine Ether, who has covered this information. They're no longer in position of power. So Babylon, and then also Rome, the Persians, all these kingdoms or empires that are controlling now these group of people because they're conquered them, basically. They're underneath a foreign jurisdiction. You following me? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And now going forward in these foreign jurisdictions, the woman is being treated based off the tradition of what happened based off one of their last kings. Because when people go back and read the Bible, they say, the king Josiah or Yahshua, Yoshi, Yahoo, you know what I'm saying? All the variations. So nobody get mad at me, right? Him and his time period, because he's the one documented that's going around after he finds this Deuteronomic literature from one of his priests in the temple rebuilding part of what he's doing. He's also, when they'll tell you, the one that dies, you know what I'm saying, at the hands of not letting a foreign king that's warring with another foreign king pass through his land. So he ends up dying. That's the story behind that. But either way, him in that time period is the one that's doing also this, getting rid of worshiping the masculine feminine duality aspects.
Yes.
So later on, these people are trapped in this perpetual governance underneath their own autonomous governance of a masculine governing principle with priesthoods after that time period. You see what I'm saying? From a governing standpoint, not a cultural standpoint, not from what you're gonna be, if your mama is, like, all right, for instance, Miss Angela, let me give you an example. And today in America, we know through genealogy that they judged us based off our mothers.
Correct.
If your mama was a slave, your children are slaves.
Perpetual, yes, through the mother's bloodline, yes.
All right. So at that time period, they're showing you from that historical standpoint that based off of your mama's lineage,
you're being condemned.
You're being condemned
into
a class system that's going to be treated and have to be subordinate to a certain.
Would you say class or status system? Because it's
I would say status, and particularly maybe who your pops is, class.
Yes, I would agree. Agree.
But you see how that worked, how we just talked about the past and how it worked today when we talk about even American history and genealogy and how we know if your mama was based on being a free woman or if she was a slave or to be left in the jurisdiction of that, you know what I mean? That
That's
the
correct.
children would be the same thing, even
Yeah.
if they took on the father's surname. But it's the mama who's dictating the status of what the children are going to be.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so I want to make sure that's why I did it. I know you know if I was tripping or not, how this correlate to this
No, you're not
information.
tripping at all. You're not
Okay.
tripping at all.
All right, so I ain't capping. We're gonna play a little bit more and then we're gonna keep it moving. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I'm talking about that's their favorite folk right there, Solomon, Moses and them. But I'm saying though, on Solomon though, you know what I'm saying? Like my dudes out of Chicago on David, you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like how they say it, right? On David, he didn't put it on it like that. He put that claim down there like just like that. He put it clean. And hey, I don't know. You heard the other white guy, and those two guys before they were debating with each other because they had the different perspectives, right? But historically, you hear white people telling, and again, they burning Bibles and stuff in this day and age right now, currently in present news in America because of what Putin over there in Ukraine is doing, showing folk what they had in their vaults about who looked like who.
But see, I have questions though, because I'm a little confused because he says something that the ancient Israelites worshipped both the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, what I see today is that they worship the masculine. So
what's going on?
What's going on? I mean, if they say they are these people, then you would think they would be worshiping according to the way the ancients did. So
the ancients did. I'm glad you said that. You caught it. Oh, you caught what I'm trying to do. You caught what I'm doing.
I got a question. I have questions because I've been in, given the fact that we met on Clubhouse, on that apparatus going into those rooms, all I see is that
masculine, chauvinistic, male-driven.
Where the woman is supposed to be in a subordinate position, and I see the women taking that subordinate position. I don't see them working. I don't see the yin and the yang. Yin and the yang, yes.
Right. And that's what the yin and the yang, positive, negative, masculine, feminine, that makes up the whole. The whole. You can't have one without the other. Exactly. I don't know how people are looking at this again. Today we honoring our feminine side of our nature as a whole, but at the same time, you know what I mean? What is one half without the other half? You know what I mean? I don't understand.
Yes.
I don't know how one side's divine, but the other side's not divine. Like they're both divine. Like this is in this day and age. Can we just say that we all divine people? I mean,
we are.
It takes two to make. It takes 1 + 1 make 3. Only in the mathematics of man and woman coming together to make a child. That's the only mathematics that is divinely done to where 1 + 1 in an object standpoint, material, physical matter standpoint can do that. You know what I mean? Even with animals, they do it. You know what I'm saying? Insects, I mean, some shit multiply. I mean, people get more eggs than others, but you know what I'm talking about. We do 1 + 1, we make 3. You know what I'm saying? All right. So that's where that math is. That's divine math, by the way. So till the name and She-Ra. See, again, I went back to He-Man for all my He-Mans listening. Talking about the consort of He-Man was She-Ra. If you didn't know, go back and watch the cartoon. Oh, they said sister. So they tried to, because he was going to get Skeletor though. They said, so He-Man's his sister. Interesting. I wonder where that came from. That kind of sounds like but I ain't gonna do it tonight. We're gonna do that another time. We're gonna come back around to He-Man and She-Ra having incest. Were they messing with each other? I'm talking shit. It's funny. Either way, because I ain't. It's been so long. I mean, it was a lot of. When I'm thinking about my kid days watching it, I don't know. I guess I messed up. I am live. I apologize, y'all, for watch He-Man better than me. It's been a long time. But either way, She-Ra is the name that is correlated within the occultic, cosmic, comic book, cartoon narrative of historically a She-Ra. Obviously, they got her white in this transition. You know what I'm saying? Funny enough how they played on the words, but We're gonna move to the next clip. We're gonna get to a real historical thing though, because even though we showed this part, you know what I'm saying, we have to, and as a matter of fact, someone put that in there, as you see, tied to the same thing we were talking about, Ashira, Adora, Shira, the queen of the heaven, you know what I'm saying? All that right there. And see, I hear though, it say for the Mattel toy company as a female counterpart for He-Man. It didn't even say sister. So I get you. They go in detail and say that's his sister. So all right, I'm gonna leave it alone. I mean, that's the toy company though, saying counterpart. I'm just saying. I mean, counterpart sound like consort to me. But however, you know what I'm saying? Counter, consort, I get that kind of energy. But however, the character went through much development, as changed several times until she emerged as Prince Adam's Adam, huh? Long lost sister Adora. Semitic, you see it about a mother goddess, divine feminine. That's the divine. Do you, based off what you just seen and heard live right now, tell me if I'm tripping. From when you think about divine femininity, does she not represent their ancient principle of that?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna slide. We're gonna slide. In America, by the way, you know, when we get to America and we start talking, because we're gonna get to present time of some, you know, some history today that I know you definitely gonna give me insight, and I'm gonna let you go ahead and run with it. Like, I like to throw alley-oops to women too. I think you slam dunking too. You above the rim. You know what I'm saying? Show us the emblem though, real quick, huh? The emblem of what these people show in 17th, 18th century British museums. It's not Shira, or maybe it's just another variation of it, right? Maybe, but culturally speaking, you know what I mean? An emblem of America, print, American peoples, London. For all them, this is in their museum now. They got on TikToks and everything. People walking into the museum trying to find this right here. But I could have went to the TikTok, but I want to show their actual source. This is their website. Slide down, guys. So y'all see the picture. Emblem of America. That's a woman on the emblem of America, right? Now, just let y'all see the little information where it says school tie, British, material paper, London, 1798. Subject, allegory, or personification. You know what I'm saying? Published by Haynes and Son. It's basically going into the 1800s. All right, we're going into the 1800s now. Before Indian removal, right? Before Indian removal, this will be after the 1763 Royal Proclamation, describing lands of Aboriginal people outside of the 13 colonies, huh? For King George. Go back up and show the image one more time. This is what they're depicting at this time frame, 1798. So we don't think nobody us making up dates. This ain't 1500s or nothing, but still, this is what they're showing us here. A matriarchal presence, a matrilineal personification of the people, a woman. What you think of that, Miss Angela, before we go into the present conversation here tonight?
Well, she certainly looks like a melanated woman, pretty much like my grandmother in terms of her complexion.
He does something. She's swarthy, huh?
Yeah, she's very swarthy.
Now, y'all might want to go back through American history, being that they're showing this picture of her in the museum over there in London, and see, this is going into the 18th century now.
Yes, it is.
This is what they're depicting in the 18th century now. Some of y'all can get back to the 18th century of your people being in certain areas before what they call the Indian removal took place in the Southeast. And the ones that didn't go or did go and got reclassified, whatever, your mama got reclassified. I know a lot of people say, my grandma told me I was this, she was this or that or whatever different tribe or background that her ancestry has remembered, being that in the European system, just like how that ancient Ashira conversation you just heard will show that now they're having to take on this, you know what I mean, like a different jurisdiction. And now they're being pushed to the back within the European system, right? Because in the European system, the matrilineal or matriarchal cultural understanding of prominence is not the same at this time frame within what we call the European colonial context, black or white thinking.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, and that's one thing that I think people neglect to think about when it comes down to the historical aspect of it. When you conquer a land, the first thing you want to do is remove the men. And who becomes your prisoners of war? The women and the children. So and that's one reason why they use that matrilineal role of the women in order to put them and her progeny in perpetual slavery. That's one aspect. That's what the Europeans did when they came upon this land.
Now, when you say Europeans, you know we're not talking about white folk.
No, we're not. We're talking about those melanated, quote, Black Britons that came here, those swarthy individuals.
And those swarthy individuals that came here were underneath the jurisdiction originally, the 13 colonies. Wasn't they tied to King James?
Yes, they were.
That's the first king, right?
They were tied to King James, and also I believe that you've spoken about this before in terms of that part of the Bible that was taken out of King James Bible.
Right.
Yes. And
I always give a shout out to Lee Cummings for that.
The Indians. So
right. Yeah. And that's in there. That's in the book.
Yes,
of his version of the Bible of how he's dealing with people we would label Indians in foreign jurisdictions that he's now coming to govern in territories and dealing with them, Aboriginal, indigenous of the land people, and how that jurisdiction is going to be set out. And his negotiations with his jurisdiction tied to the KJV 1611 Bible. And why it's not tied to, I'm going to throw this out, even though it's made our conversation today, it's not tied to what Spain or what France or what Portuguese are doing in the Americas. Because of the fact, when you understand, he issued his own jurisdiction dealing with that book, not tied to Rome in his own way of Christianity, they would call it at that time frame. You know what I'm saying? Protestantism, etc. You know what I mean? But getting back to it, that also plays a part. And when you that them people who were swarthy with their backgrounds being tied to Roman history, they have history with Rome in Europe, them swarthy, that Scottish and them coming down, right?
Yes.
So you see what I'm going? Like going into the 1600s, these folk are carrying over those traditions of that biblical book, and women are being, unless they're in a certain position within and it's still matrilineal. That's what's so crazy about it. They're still even matrilineal as far as how you get to be on the seats of the throne through nobility.
Yes, they are.
So this matrilineal thing has been like, I think it's a jurisdictional thing people might want to get in this conversation that's dividing us more than the divine part that's dividing us, making it seem as if we in the culture are downplaying our women not to be equal to us in duality. You know what I'm saying? But it's really the system that is doing that.
Yes.
Not us.
And it's part of the indoctrination process as well. I mean,
that's indoctrination.
That's true. That I do see that.
All right, I want to point that out though, because there's a picture right here. We can slide, guys. I want to get to the present day time. In present day time, though, you know about a lot of politics of Black women you've heard on Twitter, Clubhouse. You all over the place, Miss Angela, and you be seeing what's going on. You got eyes everywhere. I don't know how you do it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna give you credit. That's what you do. So I got to give you credit, because you come back and tell me some shit, I'm like, how the heck you know this? Or this you get it from where you get it from, and you dissecting it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And in present day time, though, with reparations conversations, which is still tied to politics, because everybody that's dealing with reparations are obviously having to set up organizations to represent people who agree with the political stand on the reparations conversation. You know what I mean? You know
Yeah.
what I'm going, like all the hashtag groups and all that you mentioned earlier, right?
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes.
saying? It's a lot of women involved in those groups, right?
It's a lot of women involved in those groups, but it's a lot, from my perspective, some of the women involved in that group is coming from from the perspective in a good-hearted nature that most women come from certain things. But they're lacking a lot of information, especially when it comes down to the historical part of it. When it comes down to the Constitution of the United States itself, they're not looking at that. And I think one of the things that's sorely lacking in our community is civics. Not enough of us were taught the constitutions of the United States in school. Not enough of us were taught how important it is in terms of the framing of this country. And in addition to that, I don't think a lot of people are aware that they actually have constitutions in the states that they reside. So,
Yes, that's facts.
that from that perspective, and the fact that I know these things, I know how important they are in terms of the shaping and molding of this country and who we are as a people within this nation. So I think that's something that's very important that's sorely lacking. And those people within this movement, various movements, some of them come at it from a perspective of being grandiose in terms of putting themselves up on a pedestal, and that's quite problematic. So yeah, that's the way it is. And even those people within the sphere of politics itself, you can't legislate from a perspective of being either black or white, right? In this nation, there's something to be said for nationality. There's something to be said about ethnicity, because that's how things are dealt out in our government, based on those circumstances and not based on, quote, race. So, yes.
This I'm eating peanuts and shit. I'm sorry. Pause. No diddy. I shouldn't. I don't know. But it's peanuts. I don't know what else to call it. United States House Representative. Overall, 19 states, including U.S. Virgin Islands and the District of Columbia. I just went straight in, right? After eating well, eating right. But what I'm getting to is within this paragraph that's highlighted in purple, it's going to get to the women that the District of Columbia have elected a black woman to represent them in the U.S. House. There are currently, it says, 42 black female representatives and 3 female black delegates in the United States House of Representatives. Most are members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Obviously, in history, we're gonna bring up a woman that she does. Gotta get shout out. She is, as they would say, a black woman that did. She's the first black woman to serve as a representative with Shirley. I say Chisholm. That's how I say things though. Chisholm. Chisholm, right? Chisholm, right? I said Chisholm. I was trying to be like proper when I said it the first time. I should have just said it right. From New York, though, 12th Congressional District, 1969, during the Civil Rights Movement. Now, that Civil Rights Movement, Divine Feminism, before there was a thing called Divine Feminism, on an actual question, because you're older than me. And I ain't gonna tell you your age that's disrespectful on Mother's Day. You know what I'm saying? But I know you're older than me, because you're around my sister's age, so I'm gonna say it like that. And in that time frame, in your history of understanding, have you ever heard of a thing called the suffrage movement?
Yes, I have heard of the suffrage movement. What was it? The Nigerian movement?
No, Nigerian.
Was it? Yes, I do know about the suffrage movement. I know about I believe her name is Morton.
I'm gonna show you something tonight since you
Okay.
said that though. I got something for you on this way. I got a lady that I'm gonna let a woman break it down. Cause see, I ain't gonna be biased. I ain't gonna be the one to even say it. I'm gonna let her say it, and everybody in the chat they can go and relay it and do what they do. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So but this though, in the politics though, and how these women are getting into their political positions, and just the black women in present day politics, and how I think that this movement that I just mentioned, I said suffrage because that's the term that stuck out to me. I might be, you know what I mean? But the this divine feminist thing today, and we hear about feminism and all women are trying to be kind of like together on this being held down by the patriarch idealism of the fight of genders and stuff like that. You know what I mean? When it comes to you know where I'm going. If am I missing what I'm you understand what I'm saying? You comprehend what I'm saying? Okay. So within that, this historical part though, that women that I would call like my mama look like me, my sister, and someone like you, people that look like me that would be a woman. I mean, you're still labeled black in the system, society, status, right? Off using the ancient part and all that, right? What your mama is, you is. So that means it's a lot of women having children that are daughters who are going to be in the same status as their mama. You know what I'm saying? And how they, even though you're a woman, and the white lady could be, you know, she's a woman, or Spanish lady, you know what I mean? Whoever, but we being labeled, they call black in the status of the system. As we have this many women today in the House representatives and stuff like that, come a long way to be in that position from that standpoint of struggle is what I want to highlight first.
Yes.
I ain't playing no games with that. You know what I mean? Because now I also do have my negative thoughts on the fact that some of the women, it's called a house, so you really could be like how women don't like to be called this, but I'm gonna be real with you now. Like if it's a house nigga, there's a house woman, right? I mean, see, I ain't use the word be. I just said there's a house nigga, there's a house woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, even if the house woman took a little bit longer to get in that position, doesn't necessarily mean that the house woman necessarily is for the benefit of the folk that's not in the house.
That's correct. That's correct. So
that
I
goes
mean,
duality wise, you know what I mean?
From my perspective, a lot of the women, these 42 members, black female representatives, there's a lot to be said in terms of that name black. Because again, you can be of any nationality or ethnicity and be classified as, quote, black. Shirley Chisholm herself, she was labeled as, quote, black, right? But she was of immigrant descent. I'll put it like that. So therefore, her interest wasn't necessarily the same as for, quote, our people that were initially from this country in terms of prior to the 1800s, 1700s. So yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I see a picture of Kamala Harris.
Right, she's
who
on that
has
page.
also been classified as black or a woman of color. But if you know anything about her ethnicity, in terms of being a Brahmin Indian, that of her mother, and again, when it comes down to this nation, you follow the status of your mother. So in regards to her, she follows the status of her mother. And she is a Brahmana Indian woman. Or
she's not.
You might be able to classify her as an Asiatic or your Asiatic woman.
Right. So she, in your opinion, being that you, I don't want to be rude, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your history of since you've been on this earth with children and all, have you been labeled black? Like your complexion, your skin don't match your outfit right now. Your top is
No.
black.
Yes, I have been labeled that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So will you think, based off of her heritage, you just said that she and your heritage were aligned in the position of what?
Not at all. Not at all. And nor would our politics align in terms of who we would align with, politically speaking. No.
But she colored though. She tawny though.
Well, she's, quote, a person of color. She's not necessarily, and see that's the funny part about it. People can run to the umbrella of blackness in order to gain some type of credibility or whatever. But the reality is, when she's checking that box, she's not checking that box black.
Hey, she's almost the same complexion as you. If I look at her, I'm trying to really
what?
like different a little. I'm saying like y'all
and
both.
You know what? You're right.
Y'all both.
You're
Both light skin. Like
right.
y'all both light skin. Like not the same exact, but y'all both would be considered red as they go tawny light skin. You know what I'm saying? Like you wearing black, she wearing black. You know what I'm talking about? Like she lighter than you, I would say still. But you know what I'm saying? Everybody can see the different tones and shit. Don't get caught up now. And you see the hair. I don't think that's a wig. You know what I'm talking about? Like they sell their hair to us, her people. They sell their hair to us. I seen something just the other day. You saw that? You remember you saw it? I put it on Facebook. How the Indian women be selling their hair.
Even when it comes down to them selling their hairs, there's a ritual involved in them selling that hair to us. They're going to their temple and unloading some spirits.
Yeah, you seen that, right?
Yeah. So therefore, them selling that hair to us,
it's like a curse.
It's a curse, really.
I'm gonna call it what I see it as for all the ladies out there.
And that's exactly what they've done to us as a people.
But I ain't trying to get down on them though. But it happened. It was what it came out. I'm gonna tell the truth.
On them, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah, you brought the reality.
Down to other people coming, introducing themselves into our culture as Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They introduce certain things, and it's to our benefit to learn about these different cultures, right? Because they have different rituals, they have different spiritual beliefs, and in addition to that, I might add they're pretty progressive in the way they think. And from my perspective, I'm more conservative, right? And we as a people typically are. So, yes.
Right, hold on. In the same link, though, right, really on where it came down, I'm going to come slide down underneath Clarence Thomas, right, because it's not about him today and sexual harassment things it says there. But it says shortly after being elected, Braun took a one-woman stand against the United Daughters of the Confederacies. It's Mother's Day. That's a group, that's an organization in the Americas. It says United Daughters of the Confederacy, for all y'all women out there that want to know. It says renewal of patent for the Confederate flags as their insignia. This is the woman, by the way. This ain't men. When they talk about, people talk about the racist things and Confederate flags and all that stuff that's tied to it, they don't know that women groups, organizations are tied to these things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I just found it interesting that it's grouped into the colored spectrum of the people they're showing in representation of the politics tied to the women of politics also who represent the 42 positions they say they're in today. Right? Would they not know this information? Or do you think that me and you having this casual conversation that the women in those positions don't know the history of the positions that they're coming after or sitting in?
They would know.
I think so too. I would think so too. Yeah, I would think so too. Right? I would think so too. You can slide on a little bit, God. We're gonna get off this joint. I'm gonna play a little clip. I thought this lady really, the lady about to put on, she put on, you know what I'm talking about? And I wanted to make sure I give her a shout out. But so yeah, we're gonna get to her. Check this out real quick, y'all. Angela, Miss Angela, let me know what you think. If you want to pause any point, you live with us now, don't be shy. If you want to pause anything you hear, just say pause, and we're gonna pause it and let you speak on what you just speak on. You know what I'm talking about? So go ahead, God.
story taught in American classrooms is often presented as a white narrative. My name is Kiana Duque, and I am African American. Because of my Black identity, I cannot claim the suffrage story as my own because of the fact that it's depicted as such a white narrative. In the short time we have together, I'm going to give you the highlights of the suffrage story that is typically told, show you when women of color actually got the right to vote, and then give you examples of how women of color, specifically Black women, were excluded and omitted from the story and movement. The typical suffrage story that's told starts in 1848 with the Seneca Falls Convention. It's the first women's rights convention.
I'm sorry, I gotta pause it myself. You saw I said suffrage to you before, so I don't want to be over people's head. You saw I brought up suffrage. You saw I brought it up, right?
Yes, I did. Yes.
See, this young lady right here educated me on the term. I got it from her. That's why I can't front. I give credit to the lady when she says, and I had to go back and read. I can't even show all this. I just want to highlight it though. It has to be highlighted because, yeah, she gonna point some shit out though. Go ahead, God.
Convention, and it's made and proposed by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And in 1872, Susan B. Anthony has her infamous voter registration attempt and her trial a year later in 1873. And then in 1890, the National American Women's Suffrage Association, also known as NASA, is formed, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton is the first president. And in 1909, Stanton's daughter, Harriet Stanton Blatch, becomes one of the first women poll watchers, and her actions brought women into the polling realm, even if they weren't voting yet. And in 1910, Alice Paul returns to America from England, where she was with the militant Emmeline and Christine Pankhurst, and with her, she brought militancy to the American suffrage movement. And in 1913, Alice Paul organized the women's suffrage procession in Washington, D.C. on the eve of President Woodrow Wilson's inauguration to bring attention to the cause. And in 1917, Alice Paul sets out her silent sentinels to picket at the White House and bring more awareness to the movement. And then in 1920, the 19th Amendment is ratified. And a lot of people see what I just told you as the whole story. But that's not the case. Not only were all of those things I mentioned done by white women, no people of color mentioned, not every woman got the right to vote with the 19th Amendment in 1920. Asian American women didn't get the right to vote until 1952. Indigenous American women couldn't vote until 1962. African American women couldn't vote until 1965, and Latinx women could not vote until 1975. An overarching issue in the suffrage movement was that race was seen as a liability to the movement. It was seen as a separate issue than women's rights, and that race would somehow hinder the progress of the suffrage movement. Sojourner Truth argued that a Black woman is still a woman no matter her race, that any woman of color is still a woman no matter her race. And this idea of intersectionality set up the work that Ida Wells Barnett, Nellie Francis, and Mary Church Terrell would all do. They all founded suffrage clubs to get Black women to fight for suffrage and politically ready when suffrage came. And Ida Wells Barnett in particular tried to participate in Alice Paul's parade in 1913, but was told to march at the back with the other Black women because if they were intermingled in, that white women wouldn't want to participate. And then Mary Church Terrell fought long and hard to get Black men to vote for and support women's suffrage. And Susan B. Anthony and NASA sidelined many African American women, and Southern chapters of NASA refused to admit Black women. And the Northeastern Federation of Colored Women, all 6,000 members, tried to apply for membership to NASA, and Carrie Chapman Catt, the president at the time, begged them to withdraw their applications because she saw them and their race as a liability to the movement. The suffrage story is typically told as a white narrative, and the exclusionary practices of people in the movement left out the work of many women of color. And today we talked about some examples of how Black women specifically were excluded and omitted from the movement and story. And what I hope you take away from this is the idea that America's history that's taught in classrooms is often presented as a series of white narratives that leave people of color out and leave them feeling invisible in their own country's history.
Well, you can pause.
And we're back.
You can pause. What you think about that? What she just broke down.
My first question is, why would women, quote, Black women or, quote, African American women participate in a white women's suffrage movement? One. when we were already undergoing things within our construct of being Americans, right? Men,
Right.
women, and our children.
Our family structure. Our
Our
family
family
structure.
structure. So we had another fight on our hand at the time, and I don't think that was a priority for us
At all. What they were doing, you see what I'm saying? What they were doing had nothing to do. See, this is the feminist. I'm getting the idea. Like, see, you remember that movie called The Help? That all black women know on Mother's Day. It's called The Help, right? They're showing a black woman being the maid
and taking and caring for, quote, those white households, right?
And them white women were having tea parties and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and also complaining about how their husbands were treating them.
That's correct. But they were at home having tea parties while that help was there working.
Listening to all that, though.
And listening to all that. And even then, when
even the food and everything is prepared by the help. Them tea parties and them suffrage people at that time frame that's having them conversations, as that lady just broke it down, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Can I show the clip on Facebook? I want to make sure, because this is Mother's Day, right? Suffrage movement. I want you to tell me timeline. You know I like to do timelines. This is Mother's Day. I want you to tell me if I'm tripping. I want to show something that I thought, because this is Mother's Day. So historically, I'm a historical person, so we're going to keep it real. So it says here, Mother's Day. Move it up so everybody can see the plaque. I want the plaque to stand out. Yeah. Wait, I want to move it back up. No, wait. What happened? Okay. All right. So as it says there, though, Mother's Day, founded by Anna Jarvis of Philadelphia, first officially observed in 1908. It honored motherhood and family life at the time of rising feminist activism. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
An early supporter was John Wanamaker, whose store stood opposite. Mother's Day was given federal recognition in 1914. I think that lady who you just listened to gave us a timeline that would show that black women were not a part of this Mother's Day recognition situation.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Anybody in the chat disagree? Any women or men in the chat disagree? Because feminism in America, in its origin, but black women didn't even have the
it was for our benefit.
Obliged.
No.
What's going on?
Even when it was passed along with the 1965 Civil Rights Act, it was included in that.
Come on now.
Yeah. We black women and our struggle took a back seat for, quote, white women.
No, look, you could be a black European, you could be a West African woman if you want to be, you could be a Indian woman, right? If you in the free people of color status at this time frame in history, you're not in the feminist movement. You're not in the party. You're the help.
Yep.
You're the help.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
Just like the women from the Caribbean, that came over during the 60s. They were moved to a higher status in terms of employment than, quote, the women that were here from the 1800s, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened.
So, I just want to point that out, that narrative, you know what I'm saying? Mother's Day is not even tied to black women being free at the time of the original Mother's Day. You know what I'm saying? Or men and women in the time frame when Mother's Day first was celebrated, founded, even though Philadelphia was originally, as Lee Cummings would show, in the original 17 time frame when Benjamin Franklin made his observation, what will be almost 150 years later, right?
Yeah.
Is that it was a lot of black folk in Philadelphia in the 1750s that were free people in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
But at this time frame, is the tide is turned, the tables is upside down. You know what I'm talking about? And women and men, no matter if you're in the status of free people of color, are being treated based off your status of your color, not based off of your feminine or masculine positions.
No, not at all.
Okay, in duality, right?
Yeah.
You get where I'm going with this, though, right? You see this?
I do.
You see, it said feminist on the plaque. It said feminist.
Yeah.
I can't make this up, y'all. When I seen the plaque, I said, "Wait a second." I listened to that lady, and then I looked at the plaque, and I looked at. I went back and listened to the lady again. I said, "Hold on." She walked the timeline from the 1800s going into this period, and what this suffrage movement, you see, and what they got going on with this feminist. They're complaining about how their men are treating them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with what we call any woman of color.
No.
At all. But today we do have a feminist movement that women of color have participated in.
Well, I would say that's kind of questionable, because you have to look at who the women involved are in terms of the feminist movement. Like the Angela Davis.
Okay.
She's one that I can think of offhand. There's another woman offhand that I should know her name, but I don't remember her name. But I mean, it seems as though certain women that is put in terms of position within the feminist movement that have a like phenotype as myself, they're on a different perspective. It's another agenda being pushed from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that. Trust me, I get what you're saying. I had shout out to all our women of our culture, and if no matter what your genealogy background mixture may be in the Americas in these time periods, and your people in the culture know that we together in duality have been unified, understanding what we went through in American history. But at the same time, you see what they were going through too. They were at the feminist movements before we even thought of that kind of it wasn't even a priority to us because we couldn't think that way to survive what we were going through at that time period. To be on some what we're doing today. Yeah. That's why I also want to bring that up. You know what I mean?
Well,
people weren't in that position to think like that at that time.
But see, even now, we're not really in a position to be on that tip.
So what's going on then?
I mean, we really don't have the time to be on that men against women, and I feel as though this is my lifestyle. I'm LGBTQ.
Right.
And you have this phenotype. Guess what? You walk into the room, I don't know your sexuality. And personally, I really don't care. It's not my business. I don't tell people that I'm heterosexual, it's not their business. So, I think we are dealing with certain things that's really not serious. It's not really important when it comes down to who we are as a people within this nation, right? So, from my perspective, I have a son, I have a daughter, I love them both, right? Equally, right? So therefore, I'm not going to pick one or the other,
That part.
So, yeah, I want both of them to be successful in whoever they choose to be with in their lives, But again, man, woman, child,
That's the foundation. 1 + 1 make 3.
That's right.
That's the pyramid. That's the pyramid foundation they talk about.
Yeah.
Now people might battle, like you said, because of how it is. How about we just because the pyramid is facing up. So I guess people fighting in the gender role who gonna be at the top and who at that top. No, let's put it the other way around. How about we just put the pyramid the other way around, and now it's facing down, and you got two equally on sides that bring in the manifestation of that child in this projection of manifestation of a pyramid. You know what I'm talking about? Kind of look like a diamond. You know what I'm talking about when you put it upside down. You know what I mean? But a cone shape, tree like. No, I'm gonna stop playing. Now, either way though, this lady right here though, I wanted to shout out her because I know Rosa Parks, who I actually looked up, and obviously I didn't look her up. I knew who she was. What I mean by is, she came up in my search of the conversation tonight that I'm doing and picking out what I felt would fit into where we're trying to go with this. And at the same time, though, just pointing out certain historical women, matriarch, that I think I'm like, oh, I didn't know about this. So she was one that stood out to me. Phyllis Wheatley, you know what I'm saying? And I want to give her a quick historical shout out on Mother's Day. I don't even know if she's a mother in full context, to be honest, but I do know that she's tied to history, and I think all women should know about Phyllis Wheatley. It says Phyllis Wheatley Peters, also spelled Phyllis and Wheatley, 1753, December 5th, 1784, was an American author who is considered the first African-American author of a published book of poetry. Born in West Africa, it says. She was kidnapped and subsequently sold into slavery at the age of 7 or 8 and transported to North America, where she was brought by the Wheatley family of Boston. After she learned to read and write, they encouraged her poetry when they saw her talent. We're going to go down a little bit. Check this out. It say, on 1773, trip to London with the Wheatley's son, seeking publication for her work, Wheatley met prominent people who became her patrons. The publication in London of her poems on various subjects, religious and moral, on September 1st in 1773. This is before the American Revolution now, right? You see what this woman doing? Okay, now, brought her fame both in England and in the American colonies. Prominent figures such as George Washington praised her work. A few years later, African-American poet Jupiter Hammond praised her work in a poem of his own. We can move on, God. It says Wheatley was emancipated by the Wheatleys shortly after the publication of her book of poems. The Wheatleys died soon thereafter, and Phyllis Wheatley married John Peters, a poor grocer. They lost 3 children who all died young. Wheatley Peters died in poverty and obscurity at the age of 31. You know what I'm saying? So I might, and they say she lost 3 children who all died young. So I apologize to her as a woman of matriarch. So I was right. I missed that part when I first read it. So yeah, what do you think about that time frame of her doing all that though? Coming out of West Africa, they say, huh?
Yeah, she was phenomenal, right? Yeah.
Goddamn, miraculous.
Yeah, yeah.
What a story.
To be taught how to read. I mean, given the fact that
go back to the picture.
I was always taught that it was illegal to teach a quote slave how to read.
I mean, portrait of Phyllis Wheatley attributed by some scholars to Scipio Moorhead. Moorhead. That looked like a picture of a Moorhead to me. I mean, she come out of West Africa with no understanding how to read or write, and just is able to be the most famous African at the time frame of 17. The term is not even being used, African American.
No, it wasn't a such thing as a quote African American.
Yeah, so
really, that's who funny is how they're just changing who these people are to this new construct of quote African. Right?
I just want to point her out. Poetry, man. Like, think about this. She writing on subjects of religious and moral things. And before the American Revolution, George Washington is. Come on now, this woman is. Come on now. Hold on. I thought everybody was a slave before 1885. Right?
Yeah.
She's going to London off of poetry.
It doesn't seem as though she served that type of life as a slave.
She like Lauryn Hill. People don't know about Phyllis Wheatley. She like Lauryn Hill. She did one track and she dropped, and that joint's still riding, and people don't even know about it. Like this lady did. She went to London. She came out of West Africa as a slave. They say sold to the Wheatley family. Learned how to read and write. Started writing poetry. Became so famous that they took her to London, emancipated her, and Her works are in Europe and the American colonies going into the American Revolution. And we don't hear nobody talk about her like that. Like poetry-wise. Equiano type shit. I swear to God. Lord, Morana. What you just said hit me there. I swear I said the same thing. Equiano. Like this is the Equiano, like kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Woo!
Yep.
She heavy, boy. Phyllis Wheatley. Matrilineal black woman of color history. That's my moment. We're gonna get into the definitions real quick though. I want to ask you a couple things about these definitions. Are you good though? Or
I'm good.
Let me know. All right, cool. We're gonna slide. I just want to show that real quick. Phyllis Wheatley on this black matriarchal conversation of historical women. Mother, you know what I mean? Because people go back and forth. I'm about to show this feminist thing. We can close out with the feminist thing. We started a little late, so we got a little time, right? But female parent, a woman in relation to her child. Middle English, moder. From the Old English, modar. From the Proto-Germanic, moder. Slide down, and then it says, mater, M-T-T-E-R, mater, right? It says matir. You see it, mother, meter, all the variations of the term mother. You see the time frame, spelling with the TH dates from early 16th century. Obviously, its pronunciation is probably older. It says probably older, compare father. Well, the matter at hand, you know what I'm talking about, is the sense in which of that which has given birth to anything. It's from late Old English, a familiar term of address to an elderly woman, especially of the lower class. You slide on that. Mother Nature is tied to, obviously this is in there. It's in there. I want to make sure y'all see it all. You know what I'm saying? Because Ashira, right? Mother Nature, goddess of virtue. Before there was a term mother being even used. You know what I mean? In the Hebrew, they would say it was like Emma, Uma, all that, Muma, and variations of that, right? But this is what they're going to show us here, tied to this term. Mother and Mother's Day, that today we celebrate, even though black folk originally, you weren't celebrating it. But either way, we celebrate it today for our folk. Make it our own. That's how we always do. Slide on to the next thing, y'all. I mean, what you think about this etymology? So what you think about this?
Yeah, it's fine by me. I'm cool with that.
I want to make sure everybody got that clear. Anybody in the chat that disagree with, you got something you're going to share with us? If you got another definition, another etymology, another source or reference, as I just brought up, like you got the Sanskrit, the Aramaic, you want to put the different Indian tribes term from mother in the chat right now. Go ahead and place it in there. We'll pull it up. But however, though, we're going to go back to mother real quick. Next one. Because it's going to give us, like I said, Emma. I wanted to show a different joint, so I want to be biased about this joint, right? Then again, as it says, mother, mom, Emma, variations, slide down, because I think there's one person within this joint, because I ain't be biased about these things. You know what I mean? Emma, Amma, and these are variations. See, it said Hebrew, just so you see that's how the mother go back to it. So either way, slide down a little more. Proposed translations, again, Emma. They all agree they're using this Emma thing. Emma equals mum. You see where it says disagree, where people say they disagree. It says disagree. It says Emma equals mum. M equals mother. Emma is not derived from Emma, but from M. Okay, you want to be very particular. Cool. All right. Let you have your feelings. It's cool with us. What you think about that Emma? Emma?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm an American. I call my mama. That's what I call my mama.
Right, mama. Right. I got you. Right. Everybody got their. See, look, it's there though. Emma equals mama, like that. Mum, you put an A, mama, mama. We're gonna put an O. You know, owls are interchangeable. I mean, vowels are interchangeable. O, U, mama, muma. However, mima. My daughter actually calls my wife's mom Mima. You know what I'm saying? Literally. So it's like, you know, take that off the E. Anyway, however, Emi, Umi, like that's Most Def had a song dealing with that Umi joint. We was gonna play that tonight. I had it on my joint, but Blaze, you know, messed up the mix part for y'all ladies. We gonna make it up though. Still though, we can move on though. I want to just show some variations of the term mother. For maybe those that you know might not, you know, because this thing get left out maybe. And we always be talking about a lot of things. We talking about a lot of men. And it's a lot more information we got on when we actually gathered. You know what I mean? And we're gonna bring it out. It ain't gotta just be done on Mother's Day where we talk about women in history. By the way, on the Autonomous Party. You know what I'm talking about? We want more women to tap in and give us the. You know what I'm saying? But we want facts though. If you woman historically, you gotta come with the facts though. Divinely speaking with y'all tonight. You know what I'm saying? Matriarchal of retaining to maternal rule or rule by females. 1780. So you know, 1780. Funny enough, that emblem I showed with the woman out in London, they were showing the depiction of the woman in America. The matriarch. Yeah, them clans. They were running. They were running those groups of people. They're called clan mothers.
Like right here, mother or woman who has a family or tribe.
That part.
That part right there.
Mm-hmm. In the Miko situation, Muskogee situation, the Miko or Maku is basically given position basically based off the clan mother and situation of that. And most of the clans, like the Wing clan that most people know about, was the highest of the Muskogee clans, and it was matrilineal. So that's how actually though white folk like Alexander McGivery, who signed that treaty of 1790, he got in position to be a chief because of his mama, not because of his father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just so y'all know, a lot of the positions that men became what y'all call chiefs in got in those positions from women who were messing outside of their tribal situations.
Yeah.
Now, some might want to say that they were all raped because of this position they put on, butt breaking ideal of things. I don't like to traumatize things like that because when I'm looking at what I'm seeing, it's a lot of women making decisions and doing what they're doing rather than the narrative that they're being just fully just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outright.
Yeah.
Submitted.
And then on top of that, when you have a choice, when you're given a choice between life or death, you're going to pick life, right? And some of those marriages may have been forced marriages, right? And then again, some women were given a choice. So rather than put herself or her tribe in jeopardy, she's just going to go along to get along. Because again, when you look at the way things were at the time, there was wars going on. They were taking the men and basically putting the women in a lesser position where they're just forced to make certain decisions, you know?
And you know what? And just so everybody knows, you see matter, and it showed in mother, and it had that word matter, you know what I'm saying? And you see that word matri tied to the word mother, but then the word arc, you know what I'm saying? Some people might not even know that that term is tied to archon. You click on that archon real quick, God, because that's a word that might be cryptically hidden from people that know how it's tied to the term patriarch and matriarch in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Just to give you a little context. Huh? It just means rule. I mean, yeah, but the origin of it, like how we use it, like because people try to say it's right, male and female rulers. You know what I mean? But the word archon is a Greek thing. That's what I'm saying. It's not an indigenous thing. It's not a, you know what I'm saying? It's a Greek thing. That's what I want people to see. The origin. This is etymology. So when people say, "Oh, are my people of the matriarch?" Well, indigenously speaking, of your matrilineal lineage, that's of a clan, that is an outside term since people want to be that specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying, Miss Angela? Some people like to always be like, this belongs to the matriarch, and it's like, well, we know we're using terms that are still foreign to actually the culture that people that submitted to what we call the European culture that obviously used Greek and Roman terms, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going?
Because
like
that's where they came out of it, from that construct of that Roman term. Yes.
I want to make sure I ain't tripping about that. You feel what I'm saying? Because some people try to make it seem like, no, I'm not trying to be semantic with you. You know what I mean? I understand what you're saying about the matrilineal class of Aboriginal people, and that the woman was matrilineal clans, and women were the ones. But at the same time, this term matriarch in the first place just don't belong to the American Indian culture. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Patriarch or matriarch. It don't belong to our, you know what I mean?
No.
Aboriginal people.
No, it doesn't belong to, like you said it earlier. Before Deuteronomy and that patriarchal, there was duality between the male and the female. Things changed at that point on. And that's why we're here with this patriarchal hierarchy that we have here within this nation.
And that's why, Greek things, man. When I went to college, I was really never into the Greek thing. My homies and stuff. Not shout out to my dog that did pledge and stuff. That's your business. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I was like, Hebrew, the Egyptian, the Black Panther shit, all this shit we got on Black campus. I'm a fan of you, by the way. I'm like, the Greek thing is not something that, based off the fact that I'm minoring in history, by the way, too. I'm not going to do the Greek thing. I got in trouble with one of my professors for asking questions about humanities tied to Roman history and how that correlated. And I'm like, well, how can you do this if you're saying y'all learned from these people? But either way, matrilineal. You slide down. Matrilineal. See, like matriarch is the rulership part. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the matrilineal part is a little bit different, which means all women of a matrilineal lines aren't rulers.
No.
You see where I'm going?
No.
You see, you're like, oh, y'all niggas ain't kings and chiefs and pharaohs. So a person's lineage is his or her line of ancestors. So matrilineal means basically through the mother's line, just as patrilineal means through the father's line. Matrilineal is an important concept of anthropology, among other things. It usually determines who will inherit property on a person's death. Would you agree with that highlighted part of matrilineal?
Yeah. I would agree with it in principle. Unfortunately, I it's not a prevailing factor in the way they do things here, in terms of the laws.
Right after that, though, it says, though families that follow the European model take their father's name, and therefore matrilineal societies have existed around the world, including among various American Indian tribes. I wanted to make sure I got your part first, Mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see, it had to put that in there. See, it had to say, look, though, it's the European model. As I said earlier, with the 13 colonies, I ain't being biased about the color of their skin now.
No.
Because culture is culture. The European dark-skinned folk, culture was different from those dark-skinned, swarthy Aboriginal folk. That they depicted even on that emblem of that woman in the 1780s. You know what I'm saying? Their cultures are not the same, even if they might be later on called free people of color, right? And then at that time frame where we show the lady broke down, women and men now in this system of the European model structure being labeled free people of color or not. They're actually in a dualistic situation again.
That's right. That's
funny
right.
enough. They're forced to, but that's the position they're in. I'm talking about, well, hey,
and we typically take our father's name.
That part, we know that surname,
and therefore, I mean, and
unfortunately too.
Unfortunately, and that's one of the hardest part in terms of doing genealogy. You have to find that mother's line if you're doing your matriarchal line. That's where you have to dig in the weeds sometime.
Well, we won't move on to the next joint though. Anything you want to say about what am I making sense about this special information? Is
No,
it clearing out some things that people maybe you hear debating about out there? Because that's what we do this for in the first place. Is it making sense? Let me know. As a woman, is it making
it's
sense what
making
we do?
sense, but you know what? People want to debate because, hey, it's kind of fun to debate, right?
Yeah.
Kind of looking at the facts and evidence, it's kind of fun to just debate. You get nowhere just debating, you know? When you look at the facts and evidence, hey, it leads off that room of debate. You got to deal with what's firsthand knowledge, what you can prove.
Reality-wise.
That's right.
Because in a court of law, right, we can't take
What you
anything.
feel, nope, we can't take that.
You know, we can't do that. So when
Not
people be trying to leverage
in the court of law, right?
Yeah, those are like social gender conversations that really in duality ain't changing me in your situation.
No, it's just hamsters on the wheel just running around in circles. That's all.
I'm glad we agree. As a from my patrilineal side, a patriarchal side of rulership of my mind, saying what I'm saying, and your matriarchal side of your rulership of your mind, saying what you're saying back, yin and yang. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So in this, we're gonna move on to the next clip though. And everybody again, shout out to all y'all Mother's Day that pulled up this conversation. Hopefully it all lines up. But the feminism part, as we showed earlier, it showed in that Mother's Day, that Mother's Day joint though, that feminism originated where? And who was this? Were the black women included in our matriarchal lines in American history with this thing called feminism?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. I want to make sure we all just understand that historically, because maybe when they say you forget where you came from, because that's not too long ago,
No,
right?
not at all. Not at all. Especially if
Okay.
you're a product of the 60s. It's not
That
long
part.
at all.
Right. It ain't that long ago.
Not
So
at
we can make
all.
that a little bit bigger, God, for the folk out there. Because I understand, shout out to my matriarch out there, the real true matriarch of my family lineage, my grandmas, my great grandmas, all them. You know what I'm talking about? But at the same time, I never heard them really push this. I never heard this word amongst my true matriarchal family people. You know what I'm talking about? Aunties, none of them. I ain't never heard them use this term like this. You know what I'm saying? In the dualities of what I've seen in their households, even the women I know that had issues with their men and had to raise their children in situations, I never really heard our community use this term until some recent, you know what I mean? They just want to throw divine in front of it though, make it sound good though.
Yeah.
But anyways, though, it's feminism was many definitions depending on who you ask. But Britannica provides a simple framework. It's the belief in the social, economic, and political equality of sexes. No one should be refused certain rights. Well, that obviously ain't got us to do with this time frame. Such as the right to vote. Obviously, you hear that y'all ain't included in this situation now. They basing this off of now. Remember when you heard on that plaque or not? You saw it, we read it. To hold political office. We showing today is 42 women they say in office today that look like us, right? But at that time they ain't us. And to work outside the home because of their sex or gender. That ain't us either. That's not us. Feminism goes beyond basic rights. However, it seeks deeper cultural shifts, like an end to sexism and intersectional oppression based on gender, race, sexuality, and class. Now that's when they bring in the whole gender part interesting, and they bring in race, in which some white people want to include themselves because in society today, every race is dealing with somewhat of what we call chauvinistic and feminine objections against each other. You know what I'm saying? In our social class. You feel me? But in reality, historically, when we keep ourselves on track and keep it yasher, this right here ain't got nothing to do with our folk in history, really, until some recent time in social wise thinking. What you think? Am I wrong?
I agree with you. No, you're not wrong. Yeah. It's a feminism today. I mean, as with integration, especially in this point in junction, it seemed like that integration thing. People think we're integrated fully into this society, and coming at it from a feminist point of view, we as women, especially of my type of lineage, we we're not fully integrated into society in terms of the economics, the social, as well as the political.
Spectrum.
Yeah, we're not. We're
That's
not.
why we shed light on this. It's a spectrum of things we share light on because, see, it still seems as what you just said that me and you got more in common, even though we are different genders, they would say, within our race category, but we still equally are sharing the same discriminating situations in certain cases. Even though today they do, shout out to the women, right, put ladies first in certain situations in the narrative of being in positions and like how Kamala Harris we showed earlier, who's not even necessarily of you just showed our lineage, you know what I'm saying, and class of system. But so people get confused, see, and that's where the feminism thing sneaks in my understanding of people of my lineage that would be of my family, you know what I mean? And be like, wait a second though, how you aligning with them? They ain't even a part of our lineage situation. I don't care how you think today, but that's not historically aligning.
Nope.
What you think that person's for now, based off your mama, right? Currently speaking.
Nope.
What would Drake be based off his mama?
Based off his mother, he would be Jewish. Because his mother is Jewish.
Based off of Obama's mama, what would Obama be?
He would be quote white. I have never really done a deep dive in terms of her lineage, but yeah, she's right up there.
In that area.
In terms of being put, if you looked at his mother as well as his grandmother, first female banker, dealing with Wall Street. Yeah, that leads you to wonder whether or not she's of that ish group.
You gonna ish no more though.
Yeah.
But at the same time though, you see, I'm just saying when we explore the understanding of this ideal of this who's fighting even at that time, even their people, ishly speaking at that time, were in the colored category and were fighting and being, even though they had their privileges more than what our folk in America were going through. Funny enough. Martin Luther King in the 60s did say he let all the other folk walk amongst them because they in that colored category, right? In a certain of their migration situation coming in. So they can't be treated in the same manner as the first class citizens, but they're still in a buffer class ahead of us because they can pass in certain narratives of what we call the white and the black segregation situations that didn't end on what we call the black spectrum of who've been left in our heritage labeled black going into 1960s. See what I'm saying? And I think that means that women who will be labeled in my category going into the 1960s, no matter what mixture background in the category of free people of color going into this time frame or duality going through the same things and not in the categories of these other people that might slide into the colored category as a minority, but not in the category of what we call today black.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right, I ain't tripping. I want to make sure I'm on point now. We're going to go to a couple clips of what some women said about some of these feminist things, and I'm going to let you speak on it because you're the woman. I don't want you to think I'm capping. And we're gonna close it out. And I ain't gonna hold you too late on your Mother's Day. Let you enjoy it. It's your day off or something going on. So I'm gonna let you enjoy it. I appreciate you tonight for joining us. Go ahead, guys. Play this clip.
Especially Black women, are a special kind of stupid. Now, I'm told that they're educated far greater than Black men, but you have to be crazy to decide, I don't need a man. And you know what? I'm still going to have children, but in order to take care of this child, I'm going to go out and work 8 to 10 hours a day. And then when I get home, I'm going to be too tired to actually parent. So I'm going to let my children be raised by TV and social media. And so then you have your daughter thotting on the gram, and then your son being this thug. But you know, hey, I'm educated and I'm smart, and I get to celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day. No, what you are is an educated fool, because who in their right mind would decide that they want to go against the very nature of a woman and the reason why God put us on this earth?
Wow.
Lord, she was going there. She was hot. She was hot.
She just dropped it. I kind of feel her. I feel the same way. I feel the same way she does. You kind of stupid if you want to go this alone. Because again, I mean, if you have a son, it's important for a son to see a masculine role in his life. And if you have a daughter, it's really important for her to see the way a man is supposed to treat a woman or his significant other. I mean, if you want to build solid family structures, you have to start within yourself. And you got to be a special kind of stupid trying to go it alone. I mean, given, certain women, and in my case in particular, I had no choice in the matter. But again, I made sure I had support systems in place. And before my husband passed away, he too made sure that there was going to be certain support systems in place that assist with the rearing of both my son and my daughter, which I
Shout
am
out to your family.
internally grateful for in that sense. My
Shout out to your
children had
husband.
excellent godparents, and they were there for them at those junctures in life that they needed to be there. So yes.
And again, it's a family structure. And again, you play your divine role just like your husband played the divine role in setting up things for your children to be able to benefit from, hopefully in the best way possible, of your circumstances and certain things and duality of what y'all both are going through, coming together to have a family. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
In the system that we're living in, evolution of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the economy, etc., etc. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So. And that's why, again, shout out to the women out there, all the single moms and whatever negative things that people might say. I got to give you a shout out, even if it might look bad. Now, she might say stupid, but some of y'all ain't choosing these things. I ain't saying all these dudes is perfect and y'all just out here. Now, don't get me wrong. Shout out to y'all now. Like, y'all holding it down. You know what I mean? Shout out to my grandma. She had 7 children. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, on my daddy's side. So, I ain't doing that. Shout out to the mothers. Happy Mother's Day. But still, I have to point out that it's women that obviously recognize that certain ideals of it is not the narrative that some people try to point out there, though, with this feminist side of the matriarchal energy that's happening right now. You see where I'm going? I want to point that out at the end, that you heard all that in the beginning, how they were there in the ancient time and then they cut them out, but then certain people still did the thing, and then we get the current time where people doing certain things, but then we see at the same time how we letting other people in and they representing things they ain't supposed to be representing, though. You know what I mean? Like we slipping, we mixing up the.
We mixing the dope.
Yeah, we mixing up the dope.
Yeah, we're mixing the dope.
Yeah. So this last clip right here, guys. I think we almost done. This is the last joint you got, Miss Angela. And then again, I'm gonna let you, if anything presently you want people to pay attention to in your Black women politics at present day time, I'm gonna let you close out and let you give the people what you think people need to pay attention to right now, currently from your point of view. Play this clip right now.
Is a pandemic with this single mother and but it is a proven fact that single mother households produce the worst product.
Facts.
It's a fact.
Fact. Yeah.
If you take 2-parent households, single father household, single mother household, statistically based on facts,
yep,
the household with the woman heading it by herself produces the worst product. And for our people, for Black people, for African American people, those single mother households are the reason why prisons are filled with a good majority of our
100%
right? So these
What
are
you think?
facts. You sit this on the table. Here go the facts. And then
She say facts now. She say facts. What you think? I had to pause.
I don't agree with what she said, and because I don't think that's necessarily all facts.
Yeah, I don't think it
is. Because looking at most of our family structures, we live within a community of people. We live within, and sometimes, quite often, I've found, we live in community with family. So therefore, typically, we have family members that can take up the slack, right? Yeah, there are some broken family homes within our structures.
When they presented this, though, I want to point this out. Right. Women always usually have their children, first off. So in the number count of what's going to happen in the scenario of the man is not there, we know the children automatically, usually, in most cases, are with the woman. That's the majority. There's no doubt about that. So in that understanding of putting that out there as a fact, obviously, is going against the understanding that they're put in that position no matter what in the first place. But then not even bringing up the fact that every single woman that breaks up with their significant other and they don't work out doesn't have a family structure behind them that's going to help. Now, if she's by herself, maybe in that situation, even the numbers get even worse, right? But not everybody's in that position. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to say just facts. That's why I want to. Anybody in the chat doesn't know what you think. If you think that's a fact, or what you think about what they say. And some people say it's a percentage thing. So from that standpoint, from a percentage standpoint, people are saying it's a fact.
Yeah.
From a percentage standpoint.
And even then, if you look at most women, who's usually filling up those churches on Sundays? Who's usually filling up those churches on Sundays?
Women and children.
A woman and her children, and typically that's where that woman is introducing a structure, some morality within that family, right?
Right.
So therefore, for them to say, the majority or that this is 100% the way, quote, African women are geared, that's not necessarily true at all. And one thing that I found recently is that a lot of younger women and men are co-parenting. I mean, they're actually
very well.
They're co-parenting, and
the numbers are up.
A phenomenal job of co-parenting. I mean, you have some people that kind of selfish in nature that's not doing that, but I'm seeing a lot more men and women co-parenting, and a lot when it comes down to Black men. They take an active role in their children's lives. I see,
Yeah, I think that even though she said that is height, I know people get these joints. It's facts, numbers, but again, I guess the gray areas and what they call black and white of how they put things out there too, and that's why I want again, as I should give a shout out to the women that are in positions sometimes having to go against the grain to have to deal with 2-3 children, and you know what I mean. As a woman, that's still a hard job. And you shouldn't be saying that it's automatically just the worst. Like they're the worst. I mean, well, they're in the worst position too. If you put the odds against them as an individual to have to raise 3 humans to become
and then sometimes you have a child
superwoman got down. Some of y'all are. By the way,
have some children that's going to run towards the fire. They want that shiny stuff that's out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So even then, some children make their own decisions. And, mom have to make decisions as well. Especially if she had 3 children. You know what I mean? She got to make some choices.
It come back to that duality they said before they took all this stuff out. People got caught up in. You know what I mean? I think that people the narrative has got us caught up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But in the positive of it.
But I think so, a lot when you look at things like that, a lot of those people are playing into those stereotypes, and it's further denigration of the Black woman. You see a lot of denigration of the Black man, and you see a lot of denigration of our children as well. So, I mean, that's something that society has built up in terms of denigrating specifically our bloodline and our lineages.
And that's why I wanted to show this part right here, the positive side of what families duality has been doing, even though them posts that we just played, they saying facts, and people might be like, yeah, facts. I'm like, yeah, that's facts based off of numbers. Yeah. But then look at these numbers. Yeah. Numbers of children growing up with 2 parents has increased to 70% for the first time in 30 years. So the narrative that we might see sometimes on some social media posts is always posting the negative side of these gender things. Look at the duality of what's happening and they're staying here. You can move up a little bit to show a beautiful picture of her.
And you know what? Another thing, I don't think they can take into consideration a number of couples that have made a conscious decision not to marry, but they are together. in terms of raising their children, in terms of making those decisions, and in terms of living together as a married couple, but unmarried. So, you know,
that's a lot, and that's
that's
if you hey, everything doesn't have to be based off that European model of how people are co-parenting. You know what I'm saying?
correct. That's correct.
So since we all talking about our different cultural backgrounds and the spectrum of free people of color and how people might traditionally pass down things and how they were raised to raise their children based off how they were raised by their parents. You know what I mean? So when people come together with other groups of people, however other free people of color spectrum, and they make it work in their co-parenting situation, it might not fit the popular traditional model of what they put out there in numbers. You know what I'm saying? In numbers.
Yes.
Speaking. You know what I mean? Because again, the woman was the head of the household dealing with the children in the first place. As it showed on the numbers, since they want to talk about numbers from the ancient and the even the, you know what I mean, clan and those numbers count too then. Why it's showing that the women are still holding the children a certain way and run certain things a certain way. However though. Shout out to y'all ladies out there tonight though. Again, the woman, matrilineal woman, ladies. Anything you want to say before we get out of here tonight?
Wow.
Miss Angela Williams, thank you tonight again.
Thank you. I enjoyed being on tonight. Thank you.
I had to make up for that time you were supposed to be on a panel. And I know you again, you be in the chat. You always be in the chat on our Sunday since I've been talking to you obviously on Clubhouse. Shout out to Clubhouse. Everybody that, we know we've met and conversated in our social way on that platform. But on this channel, I want to highlight you as a woman today also because again, people sleeping on you. I know we talked about it because it's Mother's Day, but I want people to pay attention to, can you give people your Twitter? Because you be doing rooms. Do you mind? Like, if you don't know,
you know what? Unfortunately, I don't even know my Twitter right now offhand. Let me look real quick. That's a shame, isn't it? But
you just be doing things. You just be out there moving. I'm talking about. I mean, if you don't want to, don't do it now. Don't do it.
Oh no! I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
I want you to keep your information. I keep it private. I understand.
Oh, okay. It's Angie Balti 1. And I'll spell it. It's Angie at Baltimore at Angie Balti 1. That's my hashtag on Twitter. So you can find me on Twitter at any time. And I'm also on Clubhouse as well. So yeah. With the Autonomous Party, of course.
And I mean, your rooms be popping, man. They sleeping on you now. You be pulling up when you got your free time. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You open the rooms though. I've been hearing like people be getting reactions, and they be like getting mad. They be doing response rooms to you on Twitter though, and all that. They gotta give you credit now.
You know what? I'm just here to make people reevaluate their position on certain things. Especially when it's in regards to this reparations movement. And I want people to critically think about this and the impact that it's going to have on future generations of our children. I don't want people to get so complacent or to follow just about anyone without questioning. And I think that's part of this it's like this cult-like mentality that a lot of people have when it comes down to specific movements and things of that nature. They want to have an impact. I understand that. But part of that impact is, from my perspective, would you want to sell your soul to the devil? And you got to look like that. Look at it like from that perspective, especially given the fact of some of these people that's leading these movements. They have to have an agenda, and I think people really need to look at the agenda involved. Why are you filing for a 501c3? And what's your tenements of your organization? And how are you moving that's going to be productive for me and mine? And these are the things that you know, people want to be involved. But I think where your involvement needs to start is Civics 101. You really need to learn the Constitution. And you need to learn the Constitution of the United States as well as the constitutions of your state. And from my perspective, that's where you can become more politically engaged. Once you have that information, you have to have that knowledge.
And that's tied to history, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The lineage matters.
Because it does matter. History matters. And if you look at one of the things that one of my hashtags on Twitter, I put down that lineage matters, genealogy matters, and history matters. All three of those things in conjunction in terms of this country, it truly does matter. And I don't think people understand how important that is.
They don't. I mean, that's why we're having these conversations from the masculine and feminine standpoint, duality of understanding that on the same page. Because as you just said, the Constitution, and on again, and who are those people dealing with that time frame of the Constitution? Is what people need to pay attention more to. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not the narrative that we really are getting right. But still, free people of color, not freed. Free people of color. You have to. I want you to. Matter of fact, my last question for you. We're gonna get out of here. Is this? And you hear a lot of people on these platforms speak about reparations. You always, in my conversation with you, always deal with the term restitution.
Yes.
You like restitution. You don't like the term reparations. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And there's a reason, and I want you to put your position out on why you do not like, from a black woman's standpoint, as they will label you, don't like the term reparations and rather the term restoration. And we'll leave with that. Thank you.
The reason why I don't like the term reparations, the way reparations is being proposed for a collective of people. And from my perspective, you can't repair a collective of people, right? Where it comes down to it is restitution is quite specific. It's targeted specifically for where your ancestors were, what harms your ancestors on your bloodline, on your lineage incurred, right? For example, if you look at Bruce's Beach in California, the state was trying to make restitution to that family for stolen property, for what was stolen specifically from that family. When you even look at, quote, for Henrietta Lacks, that family, in terms of what was done in terms of the pharmaceutical companies, that was specifically for her family, for her bloodline. That's a form of restitution. And again, from my perspective, I don't want what is owed to your family to be given to mine. That wouldn't be fair, because the harm didn't occur to specifically my family. It occurred to your family. And I believe if a debt is owed to your family, that debt should be paid to your family. That's part of your inheritance. It's not part of mine. So yes, in terms of reparations, that's where I think reparations is quite problematic. In addition to that, speaking from the way that it's being worded, not all Black people were slaves. And in addition to that, there were some white people that were enslaved. So from that perspective, unless you're going to include those people in terms of a reparations where it's going to be all people, how can those people that was part of, quote, that institution of slavery be repaired? Again, you have to go towards those bloodline and those lineages that was impacted. So.
And I appreciate lineage matters.
Yes.
Wink, wink.
Yes,
on the matriarchal side,
That's
especially
right.
y'all need to. Hey, as much as this, I'm gonna say based off the matriarchal being hidden cryptically, as we just showed tonight, I hope that part got out. That is very important in duality of the genealogy that you look at both sides. But usually, again, we'll find because of the patriarchal system over the last, say, a couple hundred years of the European model, the patriarchal influence has kind of damaged the fact of tracing so much as you would detail want to know traditions of the women's side because they took on their father's surname in certain cases. So even if you're following your mama's line, you're still following based off of her who her father is.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that has definitely been a conflict, I think, that can cause women to feel definitely excluded out of the narrative of their history and what their women or their families really were doing, etc. Especially if they're indigenous or other cultures outside of the European model structure of taking on the father's surname. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure I said that right. So I don't want to exclude on Mother's Day y'all women out there that has been excluded because of what's going on in this patriarchal system today. So if take it, I'm giving it to you like that. Miranda, it's nothing but love on my side at the party. As men at the party, we uplift in duality to women to be on the same equality of system of humanity that we both are in the roles that we play in humanity. You know what I'm saying? But today is your day. And thank you, Miss Angela. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Next week, y'all, real quick, and just to let y'all know. And again, Miss Angela, I'm gonna see her soon. We talk all the time, so this is like a late night conversation almost, right?
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? At the same time, though, next week Sunday, we got the panel discussion, Maroonville. So pull up for it. We got some guest panel. We're gonna be trying to get them right and see who gonna pull up for it. We're gonna do some old world, new world conversations and things. Throw around some some topics, but pull up for it next week Sunday. And actually, after that Sunday, we off for Memorial Day weekend, y'all. Yes, the Sunday show is taking a break for that Memorial Day weekend. So enjoy yourself ahead of time and do your thing. But that Tuesday before Memorial Day weekend, we got Lee Cummins and a little special thing on that Tuesday. Yeah, so we're gonna leave you with that since we ain't doing that Sunday. And again, homeboy with the news 3 days out the week, Monte. And shout out to everybody with the party. God, Pierre, Baron P, Blaze, Music Media Lounge. We live. The harsh reality is live life autonomously. Tap in with us. Like, subscribe, share, support. Appreciate y'all. Miss Angela, once again, peace to you. God, take us out of here, man. See y'all later. Peace.
(1848 to 1970). So this should be the North Carolina Cherokees. We also got the 1940 United States Federal Census is listed. We have the New York U.S. orphans placed in New York, Foundling Hospital and Children's Aid Society, 1855 to 1925. So that might be a big help to some people. Let's go on to page 2. So as you can see, there's 15 pages worth of things listed here. Let's see, we got our New Jersey state census, and then as you can see, they have the different years listed here off to the side right there. And then we have some things for California. We got their U.S. Index to Census Roll of Indians from 1928 to 1933. Let's see, let's go down a little bit more. We have our Oklahoma U.S. Creek Equalization Records, 1912 to 1921. We had the Oklahoma and Indian Territory U.S. Indian Census rolls, 1851 to 1959. We also have our Oklahoma and Indian Territory U.S. dolls census cards for 5 civilized tribes from 1898 to 1914. You also got your U.S. records related to the enrollment of Eastern Cherokee by Gian Miller, 1908 to 1910. You got your New York U.S. State Census, 1905. We got the South Dakota U.S. State Census, 1935. All right, let's jump ahead just a little bit. So we also have the Pennsylvania U.S. Septennial Census, 1779 to 1863. And again, guys, when you're looking through this stuff, jump into the things that, pertain to you and your family. You always can look into all these other things as well. So, that's definitely never an issue. So we have the Puerto Rico Registro Central de Esclavos, 1872. So it says it's in Spanish. One other thing I saw down here is the U.S. Index Early Land Ownership and Township Plats, 1785 to 1898. So that'd be a good one to look at. We have the Washington County, Washington County, Ohio, U.S. Territorial Census Population Schedules, 1803. All right, let's scroll down some more. We have the New York U.S. Census of Inmates in Almshouses and Poorhouses, 1830 to 1920. And then when you guys put your cursor on this, it tries to give you a brief description of what this section is going to cover. All right, so let's go to number 6 real quick. So we got the 1800 census for Delaware. We got the Alabama census returns, 1820. Let's see what else we got here. All right, so we got the first census of the original counties of Dubuque and Des Moines, Iowa, taken in July of 1836. All right, we got, what else do we have here? We have the Oregon County Census for 1850. All right, let's jump ahead a little bit more to number 9. We have the Free Blacks and Mulattoes in South Carolina, 1850.
Niggas, the top 5 lister, double S drifter, separate sipping, and you know I came with it if she cute with it.